So now we're moving into masters of vibration. So this is really the purpose of our existence, right? We're here to become masters of vibration. It's with the understanding that we are in a universe, right? A universe. That means one verse inside of the multiverse. This universe is based on vibration. Vibration is oscillation. Vibration is good, bad, left, right, male, female, right? So we're here to understand polarity. Polarity is vibration. Once we master vibration, we can then leave this universe, go into another universe, and we have the understanding and the capability to utilize that vibration in that universe. This here is the Great Year, or the Platonic Year. In Hinduism, they call them the Yugas. In Greek mythology, they call it the Ages. And in Greco-Roman, they call it the Precession of the Equinox. As you can see here, you have the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. And then on the other side, the Iron, Bronze, Silver, and Gold. When we come into this universe, we come in as pure beings into the Golden Age. And then we descend down in consciousness, move into the Iron Age, where we completely forget who we are. And then we start the ascension process, where we start moving back up, okay? So you have your descending, 13,000 years, and then your ascending, 13,000 years, which gives you your 26,000 years, or the precession of the equinox, or the Great Year. Let's look at a quick explanation of the precession of the equinox.
Now, of the many astronomical metaphors in the Bible, one of the most important has to do with the ages. Throughout the scriptures, there are numerous references to the age. In order to understand this, we need to be familiar with a phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes. The ancient Egyptians, along with cultures long before them, recognized that approximately every 2150 years, the sunrise on the morning of the spring equinox would occur in a different sign of the zodiac. This has to do with a slow, angular wobble that the Earth maintains as it rotates on its axis. It is called a precession because the constellations go backwards rather than through the normal yearly cycle. The amount of time it takes for the precession to go through all 12 signs is roughly 25,765 years. This is also called the Great Year. And ancient societies were very aware of this, and they referred to each 2150-year period as an age. From 4300 BC to 2150 BC, it was the age of Taurus, the bull. From 2150 BC to 1 AD, it was the age of Aries, the ram. And from 1 AD to 2150 AD, it is the age of Pisces, the age we are still in to this day. And in and around 2150, we will enter the new age, the age of Aquarius.
So I feel like that was a fantastic explanation of how the precession of the equinox works. We're going to get more into that, but now let's move on to density charts. So we're talking about gold, silver, bronze, and iron age, right? So now let's take a look at the ages. The golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, the iron age. What are we talking about? Why are they using metals such as gold, silver, bronze, and iron? What we're talking about is density. Remember I was talking earlier about we're going to go over density? Well, looking at density here, we're talking about density of our physical being and the environment around us. So in the golden age, we are far less dense than we are in the iron age, meaning that we're able to live longer. We're able to experience light in a completely different way. And then as we transition down into the silver age, we then become more dense, where our lives aren't as long and we have less access to higher information. Then we move down into the bronze age, where we become even more dense. Then down into the iron age. The iron age is where we completely forget who we are. We are so dense that we have completely forgotten where we come from and where we're headed, because we are in the densest part of our existence. So we have descended here down throughout the ages. So when we look at gold, gold is 19.32 grams per cubic centimeter. Then you have silver is 10.5 grams, and then bronze is 8.9 grams, and then iron is 7.8 grams, okay? So you can see that the density moving from the golden age to the iron age. And what that means for us is vibrational frequency. So I have a little vibrational frequency chart here. As we're down in the iron age, the vibrations are much slower, meaning reality is more dense. And as we move higher and higher in the ascension process, the information, the energy gets faster and faster, higher and higher. And when it's faster and higher, it gives us the ability to experience life in a different way. So what the precession of the equinox is talking about is the gestation of the soul, right? So when you come in, you are coming in as a pure being. You are then descending in consciousness, and then you are going to start ascending in consciousness. So you forget who you are, and then you start to remember who you are. All for the experience of learning and understanding polarity, of understanding vibration. So the gestation of the soul takes between 24 to 26,000 years. You will have so many lives inside of this great year, right? You'll come in as a male, a female, different ethnicities, different colors. You're going to experience it all in all fashions because you are here to become a master of light essence. The soul's gestation is a fractal of the human gestation, right? So the gestation of the soul is a fractal of the human gestation. So it takes 24 to 26,000 years, and the gestation of the human body takes between 260 to 280 days. So you can see the similarities there. What we're looking at here is vibration, right? Oscillation, good, bad, light, dark, awake, sleep, day, night, right? So you have your descending and your ascending. We come in at this point here and we start to descend in consciousness. We come in the golden age and we descend down into the silver age, the bronze age, into the iron age. And then we start to wake up in the iron age, moving into the bronze age, silver, and then gold, and then we return to singularity, our point of entry, with the experiences that we have gained going through night and day, ascension and descension. So now from a polarity standpoint, on the awakened side, you have good, heaven, advantages, strengths, pros, supporting, virtue, highs, opportunities, gains, reasons, benefits, positives, ups, assets, highlights. And on the dark side, or the asleep side, you have bad, evil, hell, disadvantages, weaknesses, cons, opposing, shortcomings, lows, obstacles, losses, against, negatives, downs, liabilities, and challenges. So you can see all of these are going to shape how we experience our reality. So as we're descending, we're going through all this loss, and as we're ascending, we're going through all these gains, meaning we're losing consciousness here and we're gaining consciousness here. We're going back to our truth, okay? So looking at it from a seasonal point of view, we move into the fall, right? We come in, we start to fall in consciousness. Then we move into winter, where we're dead to the understanding of who and what we are. Then we move into our spring point in our consciousness, where we're starting to wake up, we're starting to bloom, we're starting to remember. And then we move into our summer, where we're in full bloom, understanding everything that we have come here to experience. Then we move into the 0 point and we return. So now as we come in to this existence here at this point, right, we're coming in from angelhood, right? We are angels at this point. We're coming in here to have this experience where we can descend in consciousness to gain experience of polarity, right? So we are come from a very high point of understanding, a very high consciousness. And we then descend down in consciousness, right? What's happening here is we are falling from grace. So we are then the fallen angels, right? We come from the angelic realms into this experience, then we descend in consciousness, and as we're descending in consciousness, we're falling from grace. We're forgetting who we are and where we come from. One of the things I never understood when I was growing up when I was a kid, they'd say, oh, you're born into sin. And I would say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How can we be born into sin, right? We're born from God. There's no sin in God. God is all that is. And then I come to understand later on in life that to live in sin involves straying from the path, is failure, being in error, missing the mark. We are straying from the path. We're straying from our understanding of who and what we are, descending down in consciousness that we completely forget who we are, and then we start to ascend in consciousness where we start to remember who we are. So as we're starting to descend, some of the things that happen to us is we come in here as a 12-stranded DNA being, and then we're manipulated down to a 2-stranded DNA being, meaning they're removing some of the codons for us to be able to receive information that's around us. This is why we can only see within the narrow band of the visible light spectrum. If we had all 12 strands of DNA activated, we'd be able to see the full band of the electromagnetic spectrum. But instead, we can only see in this very, very narrow band. Another thing that happens is the calcification of the pineal gland. The calcification of the pineal gland means that we lose our third eye capability to be able to see into the spirit realms, right? So as we're transcending down here, we lose our connection to the higher realms. And then once we get here, we completely forget who we are. Now we have made the transition where we are now in the ascension process. So now looking at it from this point of view, now looking back at these diagrams, it gives a good understanding of why we can only see 0.4% of the stars, etc., and that our conscious mind is only 5%, and that our ability to see is within this very narrow band of the visible light spectrum, because we're only working with a two-stranded DNA being. Science says that 99% of our DNA is junk DNA. That's because they don't understand. Remember, we're just coming out of the Iron Age, where we have completely lost our memory of what we are. It is not junk DNA, it's just turned off. So now with that understanding of the descension and us falling from grace and forgetting who we are, now these pie charts are starting to make sense. Looking at what science thinks our reality is, it's just 0.4% stars, and the other stuff is what we can't see. And then looking at our conscious thinking is only 5%, and that our ability to see is only within the visible light spectrum. And then you look at the DNA of the human genome, they say that 97 to 98% of our DNA is junk DNA. It's not junk DNA, it's just turned off. So once we start turning on these DNAs within inside of us, we're going to gain far more access to the electromagnetic spectrum, giving us the ability to see in other realms. Once our third eye is decalcified, we can then start seeing more. So once we get this DNA turned on and our third eye decalcified, as we are awakening, we'll be able to see more in these realms. Just like those plants that we're speaking, we have the ability to tap into that if we have our transmitters turned on within inside of us that can perceive that information.